creative people love to do a lot of things. And it's become very apparent to me throughout my career that this is the one thing that actually is their superpower, but also holds them back the most. And let me explain before you go off and like rage at me. So the thing is like, we love to try new things. We love to go out there and do different things. And over time, you develop a really good skill set in regards to that. So when I first started photography, I was like, I have a camera. I kind of like this. Someone, when I was younger, told me that I was really decent at it and I should do some more of it. And then I went out there and started doing some photography. And I started taking photos of animals and landscapes and anything that would sit still long enough for me to figure out my craft. And this is back in the film days. So this was like a K1000. And it was, you know, it was a slower process. It was a nicer process if I really am transparent about that. But the thing is when you're doing that thing, you kind of progress at these layers, right? So you go out there, you do this. And then my next step was like, oh, I'm going to try and photograph people. And then by then I realized that I needed a different lens and I needed this and needed that. And I started to fall down the rabbit hole of gear, which in itself can become a massive amount of time and money and just excitement wrapped up into this one little thing. And you get the lens and then, you know, use it twice. So there was all this going on, and this superpower of being bored, I was just kind of leveling up, because I would get bored, do something new, get bored, do something new. And this helped me to a certain point. However, there does come a point where you've kind of maximized the learning that you can do before it becomes these baby steps. And I think it's the bell curve or something like that, where you learn a lot at the beginning and then the second part is a slow decline. And then the top is like you're learning 1% every year kind of thing. So there comes a point where you've maxed out your learnings and it's only little little baby steps of learning. And that is what a lot of creators get into because they get really good. They become a master of their craft, but then their boredom pushes them into the next thing. So they master this and they move on to the next thing. That is where, if you're trying to run a business, if you're trying to actually, you know, be successful in your craft, that's where it falls flat. Now, the thing is that it was Casey Neistat. He said something in one of his episodes, which was really, really kind of eye-opening, which he said, your repetitions are your reputation. And that to me has stuck with me throughout the years. It's actually on my treadmill. And if you go back in the history of my Instagram, at some point, you're probably going to see a photo of like, you know, your repetitions are your reputation. And that to me meant a lot because while I was running, this is where I started to learn it, right? It's like, go out there, do this hard thing over and over and over. At the beginning, you suck, then you get a little bit better, then you get a little bit better, then you get a little bit better. But because you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're getting these small incremental changes. And over time, in aggregate, you can become really good. Running helped me stay consistent and helped me stay on task. And so when I thought I was done something, I would make sure that I spent some more time on it. So when I was done editing, instead of getting bored and going, okay, I'm going to move away, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to let it breathe. And I'm going to come back to it this afternoon and see what's missing. And like, oh, this is what's missing. I need to change this. And then this, and then this. And it's these little incremental steps that happen after you get bored. So yes, the boredom is a superpower and that it can drive you to be really good. But if that really good then gets attacked by that same boredom, it then becomes the opposite and becomes a bit of a curse. And so the way to get around this is to actually treat it like it's a task that needs to be done over and over again, knowing that it's that consistency that's going to pay off. There was a study that was done that actually kind of really showed this in its peak, which is this. There was a class they split up into two parties, right? The first party they had was people who need to do as many pieces as possible. Their job, their end goal for their highest grade was to do as many pieces as possible. And on this side, on the other side of the class, they had to make one perfect piece. Now, what happens is really fascinating is more often than not, the people on the volume side outperform the people on the one perfect side. So by taking too much time and by tweaking and by changing and doing little things, differently in this one, it wasn't as good as just going out and doing the thing over and over and over. And that to me is stuck. And so when I say to you, like, the boredom that you get as a creative is a superpower, but also a curse, that's the curse part of it. Because at a certain point, you've done this over and over and over again. You got really, really good. Why are you shifting over to this group of people that are basically, I'm now going to work on one really, really good piece, right? We know this doesn't work. So focus in on this and build and just repeat. And that's the hard part for being a creative, because it gets really boring. And doing the same thing over and over again after a while feels so simple and easy that you kind of lose that dopamine rush. You lose that energy and that love for it. And that honestly is what makes creatives kind of like the double-edged sword. That creative boredom is the double-edged sword for them. So if you're there and you're out there and you're doing something where you're like, I'm kind of getting bored of this, I'm going to move on to something else, I urge you just to slow and sit down and look at where you were and where you are now and go, wow, what a difference. And if there's not a difference, then you haven't done enough pieces. Go out and do more of what you want to do, right? And if you're really, really bored of doing that thing, then maybe that's not the right thing for you, because it's a marathon and you have to learn to run over long distance.